and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 136 of the Wise Guys Sports Show here on the Wise Guys YouTube channel. I am one of your hosts. I am the Big Rican on Sports, Mike Martinez. And with me, as always, is my co-host with the most, Mr. JC Blue Note, Jim Cornetti. And James, we are at the end of the NFL ride as the Super Bowl is the next game they will play. We're going to go over championship weekend, which was interesting to say the least.
Very split,
Watch.
one up, one down.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, Interesting thing about the NFL and the championship weekend, and I'd like to start in the NFC if we could, because that game I think had more storylines, especially with the possibility of Matthew Stafford retiring. Sam Darnold becoming the first of that vaunted 2018 draft class to get to the Super Bowl. Did you happen to see the thing I sent you about Mr. Darnold's lineage to you and John the other day?
I did. I did. Very, very good piece of investigative journalism.
Yes. So for those who don't know, Sam Darnold's grandfather was the original Marlboro Man. But it's not what his occupation was that was the best part. It was his name. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Darnold's grandfather's name legitimately was Dick Hammer.
Now we wonder where like John Cena was going to get his name from when he was going to call himself like Dick Hammerbush or something.
The Marlboro Man, apparently. So we are going to start in the Pacific Northwest where the Seattle Seahawks punched their fourth Super Bowl.
Correct.
Of course, the one with the Sean Alexander, Matt Hasselbeck, the two with the Legion of Boom, and now with the Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith, and Jigba led offense. And can we call it Legion of Boom Jr.?
See, this one's a little strange just because of how good their defense is, but there were so many other teams that had that their defenses were, kind of ahead of Seattle's. We had the Rams had a great defense. The Broncos had a great defense. The Browns, for finishing fifth worst in the league, had the second best defense in all of football this year. And, this is very strange territory for the Seahawks going into this game because the last time that they had an offense that was like this, it was basically Marshawn Lynch, you know, and Russell Wilson kind of expanding up while they were trying to, while Denver was trying to actually carry Peyton Manning to the finish line.
Yeah, that would the definitely some of the parallels because all these teams have been in recent championship games. I mean, the last 10 years, the Broncos, of course, win that Super Bowl 10 years ago in Super Bowl 50. The Patriots, of course, all their success that they had with the Brady Belichick era. And then you have Seattle with those two Super Bowls with the Legion of Boom and Russell Wilson. And then what Stafford won his 3 years ago?
Uh, I don't want to actually run and grab the shirt, but yeah, it was within the last 5 years.
Damn it.
It was 2022.
Yeah, so 3 years ago. It feels longer than that.
It does just because of the Kansas City and Philadelphia, role that they've been on.
Yeah, that's true. So Jim, it was a really good. I mean, that was the better of the two games, just because of the weather thing that went on in Denver. I was impressed with the way that Seattle played defensively, especially in the first half. But again, we talked about it previously. The second half looked a lot like the national championship game where everybody was just scoring willy-nilly and didn't really give a shit.
And then the only difference is that there was, the national championship game, all the scoring was done in the fourth quarter. This time it was all in the third quarter, and then they basically had, you know, field position contests in the fourth quarter because nobody scored whatsoever. I mean, the last score of the game was the Puka Nakua touchdown late in the third quarter to trim the lead to the final score of 31-27, and the Rams missing on several fourth down possessions in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I was impressed with McVay's. He was very much coaching like it was the Super Bowl because he knew he had to get there.
Right.
I will say this: Mike McDonald's a hell of a coach, a hell of a coach. So now we go into what happened in Denver. And when you and I did the preview of it last week, we're talking I felt Denver was going to win just because their defense, the way they had played. But as you have mentioned to me, that game was almost unwatchable in the second half because the snow rolled in. What were your impressions of New England overall in that game?
It was a relatively boring first half. I mean, it was a 7-7 game that we kind of figured that this was New England going up against the best defense they were going to see not only in the playoffs but all season to this point, up until when they're going to meet up with Seattle by the time we're taping this just a week away. Um, because pulling the curtain back, we originally taped a segment earlier this week, and then there was a corruption with the file, and we had to we have to go back and kind of redo it here. But it's definitely something that, I had it on, but it was more so in the background. I mean, the fact that uh, Jared Stidham had 133 yards, and which was over 50 yards more than Drake May in the entire game at that point, that you had, you know, Stevenson had 71 rushing yards to lead the Patriots. It was once the second half came around and then you actually saw the deterioration of the field conditions, and then you had teams going in on 3rd and 8 and basically just giving up at this point, because nobody could do anything. The telltale sign was once the field started getting covered, and then they could only, set out maybe about 15, 20 yards worth of line markers every 5 yards, with snow blowers in between, punts at that particular point. Um, it was something where, they were, New England was way back in their own territory. Mace, Ramon Stevenson slips, and then May goes down as well, right on top of him. It was literally, I mean, this is actually why 18 teams by the end of this decade are going to have dome stadiums.
Yeah, and as much fun as a snow game is, I can tell you this from my own experience. Playing a snow game on Madden 26 is almost impossible. You can't see nothing. They literally make it seem like you're at the stadium in a snow game. You can't see. You throw the ball and you're like, I think that's my guy, which is basically what you saw coming out of Denver. Um, so, given a little tiny look at what's coming up, is Travion Henderson going to be healthy for the Super Bowl?
I think Sam Darnold's certainly going to be a hell of a lot more healthier than Henderson. Um,
What was his
at
an
at
ankle?
that, yes, yes, but Seattle's coming in. Seattle took the Rams' best shot when the Rams were completely healthy, and now New England's got to take Seattle's best shot about as healthy as they're going to get. And this is where we'll preview the game on next week's show. We're gonna tape midweek, with some of the more storylines and then things coming out of Radio Row. With some of the other people that are going to be there and some of the interviews that are going to come out with some of the other segments that we'll talk about later on, tonight. um Word to the wise, it was one of the segments that we could actually salvage from earlier in the week. Um but it's definitely something where, um Seattle opened as an early favorite. It's kind of expanded, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if it expanded a little bit more. They're already saying it is the most bet on Super Bowl in history because you got a lot of people that are taking Seattle with the points because they got a feeling that this one could end up, not being nearly as close as we think, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, so let me ask you this. Couple things that stuck out to me in the NFC game. Number one, Puka Nakua is very quickly becoming the best receiver in the league. Overall. This year we'd have to say it was JSN just because of the insane numbers he put up on the team that ran the ball the most in the NFL. I think that's kind of lost with the numbers he put up because you're shocked at him, but they ran the ball more than anybody else. Um, he's scary good. Uh, I think Stafford's going to hang him up. I honestly believe he will hang them up. I I don't know how much better you can go out other than winning a Super Bowl, as as an NFL quarterback. I mean, Peyton Manning hung on a couple years too long. He was basically dragged to the finish line by that defense that Denver had for Super Bowl 50. Stafford's going to go out probably the MVP. Um, I just think the NFC game, I just think the winner of the NFC game was going to win this thing either way. Once Bo Nix got hurt, the winner of the NFC game was going to win this thing the whole time.
I
Your
mean, a
thoughts?
a Bo Nix versus either of those two quarterbacks Super Bowl is what we were hoping for, and now it just we've got Nix versus I'm sorry, we've got May versus Darnold. We've got the young up and comer, um, going against the journeyman who finally found a way to latch on the last 2 years and resurrect his career. So now everyone's starting to think about who's going to be the next guy that's really kind of down in the doldrums that is going to be able to take that next step. Is it going to be, a Deshaun Watson? Is Josh Allen going to finally get over the hump? I can't believe I'm saying that with the fact that he's got an MVP and he's a front runner to possibly win it again here in the next couple of weeks. Or he's certainly a finalist for it. But who's going to be the next one to take that next step, much like Darnold did? It kind of takes a little bit of the luster off not having Knicks versus Darnold or Knicks versus Stafford, but it's still a really good quarterback matchup. And we're either going to get another New England stunner, much like their first one, tainted as it turned out to be over the Rams with Spygate hanging over the top, or um, or it's going to be uh, you know, Seattle just proving their dominance through most of the season when everyone thought that they were going to be kind of the odd team out. I mean, there were a lot of people that were thinking that there were going to be three teams coming out of the NFC West, except one of those teams was thought to be Arizona. Instead, it's Seattle who ends up tied with Denver for the best record in the entire NFL.
Yeah, you want something else I saw. Speaking of Mr. Darnold, he's the first USC quarterback to start a Super Bowl.
Correct.
That's insane.
All the great quarterbacks that they've had, especially in the last 20 years.
Yeah, Carson Palmer never got there. Um, Sanchez got close. Um, who else? John David Booty? No,
Matt
I just want
Leinart,
to say his.
no.
I just want to say his name. Liner, shut up. Liner was terrible. Hey, let me ask you this real quick. Just we bust chops about Buckeye quarterbacks. How many really good USC quarterbacks have there been?
Granted, and also you mentioned, Seattle with their head coaching situation. Can we finally put the death nail in the fact of the Michigan cheated thing? Because look at all the coaches that were up there that Harbaugh got his team to the playoffs. Minter took the head coaching job with the Ravens now. You know, McDonald's on his way to a Super Bowl. Maybe it wasn't as tainted as everyone thinks it is because look at where everybody's ended up at the next level and very successful on top of it. So I think we could probably close that book now. I know you won't, but
No, no, only because you can do what they were doing at the next level, and it's not against the rules.
more surprising as we wrap up here, there our opening segment tonight. More surprising how good the NFC battle was with the numbers that Darnold and Njigba against Stafford and Nakua put up, or how bad the AFC game turned out to be.
Can I say push?
I mean, I don't have the soundboard, and in ode to Marshawn, I'm not going to throw it out there tonight.
Oh, but I do.
My phone's on the other side of the room.
Um,
Fair enough.
and I think it's push for this reason. Looking at this game, we knew the AFC game was going to be the uglier of the two. We didn't see with the defenses, with the way the Rams have played defense second half of the season, and with the way Seattle's played defense all year, I didn't think that JSN and Darnold were going to be able to get the numbers they did, and I certainly didn't think Puka and Stafford were going to light up Seattle like that. So hey, I'm going to say push only because I didn't expect much out of the AFC game. I got what I expected out of the other one.
And we
So
will be
I have to say push, but I will say this: your finalists for Coach of the Year in the NFL this year need to be Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, and Mike Vrabel. I mean, you can't. New England was 3-14 last year. Get to the Super Bowl. McDonald takes a retread quarterback, hands him one of the best young wide receivers in the league, and now they're going to the Super Bowl. And Ben Johnson, of course, did what he did in Chicago.
inarguably, it was established the best division in football.
Yes, exactly. So
So
we
we
will
will
come to you later this week. We will get this preview of the Super Bowl in. We will dive in. That will be the entirety of the show. That will probably put up right before the game. Or probably Saturday or before the game, right?
Yeah, we'll be taping midweek. I will try to get that show edited sometime Friday or Saturday, and hopefully by Saturday night it should go up, or worst case first thing Super Sunday morning. Because I think this is one that even if you're not an NFL fan, you're going to be watching this game because everyone's got a rooting interest in it. The last few years, everyone's been burned out on Kansas City, and it's always nice to be able to get that young upstart story. And we got two of them this year.
That and the Puerto Rican at halftime.
We shift gears from the gridiron to the hardwood. And Mike, we're going to go back to school. We're right smack in the middle of college basketball season. And Michael, can you name the only two teams in the country that are undefeated right now?
Yes, that would be the number one Arizona Wildcats, and out of the MAC, the number 21 Miami of Ohio Redhawks.
And Arizona, as we're taping this, Arizona had a good win against their crosstown rival Arizona State earlier today. Miami has got a good game going on today as well. They are currently,
They
um,
won by 24.
yeah, it's they beat Northern Illinois. Their next, they won't play again until they play Buffalo on Tuesday night. Um, so and here's the scary thing. Miami is 22 and 0. They've got a full one game lead over Akron in the MAC. They are the number one scoring team in the country, averaging 94.1 points per game.
Jesus. That's big numbers for college.
Already this year, Miami has hung 129 on Trinity, which is a Division two team. They hung 87 on Old Dominion. They hung 111 on Arkansas Pine Bluff, 109 on Indiana University East, which is basically like Ohio State playing Youngstown State essentially. They hung
Yeah.
90 on UNC Asheville. They hung 83 on Wright State, 135 on Milligan, another one of those out of conference mid games. I think that got postponed or something with weather or whatnot. And in three of their last five games, they put 100 on Central Michigan, beat them by 39. They hung 105 on Buffalo and held on to win that one 105-102. Hung 107 on Kent State in a 107-101 win, and then it put up 86 and 85 in their last two games.
That's insanity. They're not giving up a ton of points either.
No, it's their points allowed is 75.1. So that's a plus 19 point differential for the Red Hawks. And there's a lot of people, Michael, talking, and we'll get to some of the other major conferences, and we'll talk about Arizona here in a moment. But there's also a lot of people saying that typically the MAC has been um you know, it's been a one bid conference for the last few years, and when they've been getting in, even as strong as some of those Akron and Kent State teams have been the last 3 or 4 years, they're maybe 10 seeds or 12 seeds where they're the lower of the at-large bids. Uh, Miami right now is looking like if they keep this up, they're going to be no worse than a 5 seed, and then a second team could end up getting in from the MAC, like an Akron or a Kent State.
I can see Akron getting in, especially if they're keeping pace by doling out down a game to Miami. I can see Akron getting in. But
With an 18 and
Arizona's
4 overall record, yeah.
yeah, and Arizona is one that we see every single year is especially over the last 10 to 15 years. They're going to be there on one of the top 3 lines in the tournament. The problem is, Jim, is this Arizona roster going to be able to get away from being the okay, well, we know who's going to lose to a low seed in the first round.
I think they're built strong enough to where they don't have to worry about that this year. They're 21 and 0 after I believe they might even be 22 and 0 because the rankings that I'm looking at were from last week because the new rankings don't come out until tomorrow afternoon. So they're the unanimous number 1. They were actually also only they earned the first unanimous number 1 in school history with that last week after Michigan lost their first game of the season. And let's look at some of the other teams in the top 5. You got UConn sitting at 19 and 1. When the poll came out, sitting at 2, Michigan at 3, Duke at 4, Nebraska at 5 was undefeated and then had a very close loss to Michigan. And Michigan went into East Lansing earlier today and beat the brakes off of the Spartans. In it was I wanna say it was like 15 at the end, but it really wasn't that close. UConn is running all over Creighton at the time that we're taping this. Houston had a big win against Cincinnati today. Um, North Carolina is getting back into the fold. They're sitting at 16. The defending champion Florida Gators are sitting at 19, with some good competition coming up. And this is why I like college basketball so much more than college football is because you look at the teams that are out there, UConn, not a great football school, got themselves back, and is right now sitting they're going to be neck and neck with Arizona, even coming out of the Big East, the Catholic 10, as a lot of people call that conference.
Yeah.
Fighting for the top overall seed. Michigan is going to be there. Nebraska looks like they could be legit. You've got the West Coast Conference Gonzaga sitting right now 6th in the country before they move to that newly reformed Pac-10. I want to say starting next year. Um, Iowa State's sitting at 8. Houston, the national runner-up from last year, sitting at 10. You've got BYU sitting at 13. Kansas is getting back up there. They're up 5 spots to 14. You've got Vanderbilt in there. You've got St. Louis, the Billikens sitting in the top 25. Miami sitting in the top 25. St. John's is in the top 25. Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Iowa, Texas A&M, Auburn, those are teams that are on the cusp. I want to say that those were 26 through 30. St. Mary's is getting votes, SMU's getting votes, and Villanova's getting a couple of votes. Wisconsin got a vote. So this is something where, we had the RPI, before, and it's been filtered out in recent years. And this is actually where like the quadrant wins are now playing much more of a factor. So this is where I think college basketball gets it right because if somebody gets left out, the numbers really kind of don't lie, and there's a lot less politicking because you've got to actually find, you know, 20 to 25 at large teams every year with all the automatic bids that come in. And the clock is flipping over here to February. We've got maybe a month left of really good conference college basketball before we actually start looking at, you know, mid-major conference tournaments.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that. Because I honestly, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. If there are only 2 undefeated teams going into the tournament, don't be shocked if Miami gets onto a 2 line. They
I
won't ever
don't
give them
know
a
if they would.
1.
I
Hold
don't
on.
know if they
But
would.
if
Eh, go ahead.
but if they run the regular season in the MAC and then they run the MAC tournament, how do you not put them on a 2 or a 3? How?
I, I think it's because of the competition that they're in. Because really, their strongest out of conference win was Old Dominion. or
But
maybe
Gonzaga with
maybe Air Force. It was see, this
but
isn't a situation like when St. Joe's went into the tournament undefeated that one year and actually got put on. I want to say they were either on the 1 or the 2 line, and then they got bounced in the round of 32 or the round of Sweet 16. I have to go back and look at it. That was the Jameer Nelson team. This is a team out of the MAC, and we've actually seen teams with better, with better records, not so much undefeated, but like 3 or 4 losses or less in those smaller conferences get really shoved to the wayside because of the fact of their out of conference schedule and everything. Um, but this is actually where the great thing is that, Gonzaga plays in the same conference every year. Mark Few, I want to say they're looking for 25 straight years of going to the tournament. They're well on their way there now. He's got 2 Final Fours. He's been to a national championship game. They nearly, I mean, Butler actually was what, 2.5 inches away from beating Duke that year with the way that
oh
that
my
ball
god,
rolled off
yes.
the front rim.
Yeah. That I remember those 2 they went back to back, right? And played them
Yeah,
in when Duke went back to back years ago?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's I think Miami should end up on a higher line than what they will because no matter who you play, you run the table, especially in college basketball. Because remember, we talked about it when we talked about the national championship game. The last time a men's college basketball team went undefeated, 1980. Is that when Indiana did it? Was it 80 or 82?
It was 75, 76.
Yeah. So you're talking 50 years ago was the last time you had an undefeated men's college basketball team win a national championship. Um, we're really going to play this game with an undefeated team getting to the tournament? Come on now. That's stupid. It's
But
just stupid, Jim.
yeah, but the difference is Arizona's basically got like 2 or 3 guys that are gonna end up playing either in the NBA or the G League right now. Miami may get 1, maybe,
They don't have a Wally Serbiak of this season.
and that's the great thing is that that's the last time Miami was this competitive was you'd have to go back to that Wally Zerbiak 2009, roster. Um
God, that was that long ago.
Yeah, it's because I looked it up the other day, and it's like you really got to go back that far for the last time that they made the NCAA tournament and actually had any kind of steam to go with it. But you look at who's out there. Arizona's certainly going to be a favorite. UConn, Michigan, Duke, Michigan State, Iowa State, Illinois. You can't count out Houston. You can't count out the defending champion Florida, even though that they're sitting towards the back half of the top 25 and already have 6 losses on the year, but most of those came in the early part of the season, um, as they were adjusting from all the players that they lost, and naturally with the transfer portal and everything. But it's definitely, I mean, we've got a lot of fun coming over the last 6 weeks, but I do want to shift gears with this. There is one story that's here that's involving a top 25 team, and it's number 23 Alabama. And Michael, I'd like to get your take on the Charles Bediako case. And this was the young man who entered the draft, did not get picked, and then tried to go back to the NBA. I'm sorry, tried to go back to college for to resume his career with his eligibility still left.
That's the dumbest shit I ever heard. You declared for the draft. Goodbye. Go play in Europe. I am I you never want to see a kid get done like that. But go play in Europe. Go to the G League. They'll pick you up as an undrafted free agent. Goodbye. See ya. Move on. So that's the kid that Hurley was going off about.
I think that was uh it was there was also one with Baylor. Um
Okay.
but Bediako, and this is according, and I'm reading this per verbatim out of an AP report that was posted on ESPN a couple of days ago, that Bediako is suing the NCAA in an attempt to regain college eligibility despite leaving school and entering the 2023 draft. He went undrafted but signed a two-way NBA contract and played the past 3 seasons in the G League. Roberts, the original judge, James Roberts, filed a temporary, granted a temporary restraining order last week that allows Bediako to play for the Crimson Tide at least until a hearing on an injunction can be held. And Alabama plays at number 19 Florida tomorrow. And there have been
That's
a
crap.
multitude of coaches, including Florida's Todd Golden, who have opposed this. And then the one that's going on at Baylor, uh, uh, Bobby Hurley objected to because Bobby Hurley's at Iowa State, and that's an in-conference rival.
That is such a joke. That is such a joke. You played 3 years in the G League. You signed a two-way contract. Go away, bro.
This
Go
is
away.
this is this is where the NIL is quickly ruining college sports, Michael.
Jim, this isn't NIL. Okay, this is arrogance. This is, I felt I should have been treated a certain way. I wasn't. I'm not going to get looked at unless I'm somewhere else. And now I'm going to be a bitch and try and sue my way back to fucking college. That's not
Yeah,
NIL, dude.
but the difference is that I'm actually watching the Elway documentary on Netflix. This isn't him actually saying, "Hey, I threw my name into there. I got picked. I don't want to go report for them," like what Elway did, and then try to actually go back to the draft and go play baseball for a year. This is a guy that actually got picked, signed a contract, and is trying to go back. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, this guy's being a little bitch. This isn't NIL. I'm sure he wants the money that goes with it, but get the fuck over it. Do you understand?
Average.
Let me
Go ahead.
let's be, and it's a little far-fetched, but let's throw this out there. LeBron has 4 years of eligibility technically if he wanted to.
That's true. Yes.
So if this motherfucker does this, are we going to see LeBron suit up in a scarlet and gray when he decides to be done with the NBA?
Right.
It's just fucking stupid. I mean, I'd get a national championship t-shirt out of it, but you know,
Well, it wouldn't actually. I don't think it actually would work because the second he signs a professional contract and plays at that top level, any of his
no,
NCAA eligibility is out the window.
yeah, no, it is, and I'm obviously I said like it's a far-fetched example, but it's an example nonetheless. Like you basically so basically what the G League now doesn't count as being professional. He got paid.
Essentially, it is just because it's like it's something that could be a very quick call up, to the top level.
Just because he played like dog shit doesn't mean he gets to go back to school.
Right.
You want to go back to school and get a degree? Go back to school and get a degree. Doesn't mean you got to lace them up, bro.
This is just to kind of close up. I mean, we don't have football tomorrow, but if you're a college basketball fan, you got a couple of great games on tomorrow. You've got that Alabama Florida tilt at 1 p.m. on ABC, and then if you hang on a little bit, you got Illinois going to number 5 Nebraska. That's a top 10 matchup at 4 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. You've also got I thought I actually saw you've for me, I've got Cleveland State playing tomorrow. You got Iowa and Oregon. Iowa, still looking to actually rebound. You got number 8 Iowa State at Kansas State at 2 p.m. on Fox. So this is actually, college basketball's time to shine here now to be able to take the forefront on Sundays with golf just actually starting back this week and NASCAR still a couple of weeks away. So it's a perfect opportunity to jump in.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I was just trying to see some of the other games. Damn, Penny Hardaway's 10-10. Ugly.
Bowling shoe ugly.
So, Jim, for our last segment of the night, we're going to go to back to the NFL, and we are going to, well, we are going to try and make sense of maybe the biggest dumpster fire in all of professional sports.
But mom, do we have to?
I think we have to, because there are just some times when you want to rip the hair out of your head, and unfortunately, I don't have any hair to rip out. And it seems to be, James, that since you and I have started doing the Wise Guy Sports Show, oh, 5 years ago, this team has made us both want to choke people. And we are, of course, discussing the fucking Cleveland Browns. I,
I wish I had strings so I could just like tight face it for the next 10 minutes.
do you want to look like Kenny from South Park? Is this the look you're going for?
Might still make more sense than what happened in that building in the last 23 days.
I mean, I can't even begin to describe it. So let's start at the very beginning because it's a very nice place to start. 30 some years ago, Art Modell decided to leave the city of Cleveland and move to Baltimore, starting the Baltimore Ravens. And they're still biting us in the ass 30 some years later. Because now, somehow, their dog shit OC has convinced the great value Jerry Jones that he can run a program.
Todd Monken was named the 18th head coach in Cleveland Browns history just yesterday, the time that we're taping this, back on Wednesday, the 28th. Out of a pool of some names that were being thought of as Sean McDermott, John Harbaugh, Rams pass game coordinator Nate Scheelhaus, Jacksonville offensive coordinator Grant Udinski. Um, After they fired Kevin Stefanski, of course, after he won 8 games in 2 years, despite 2 Coach of the Year awards. Um, Now there's a lot of people already talking. After all this, do Clevelanders and Browns fans have buyer's remorse with the fact that Todd Monken was the offensive coordinator for Baltimore for the last few years and is 60 years old and now is getting his first head coaching gig in the NFL. Even didn't even have an interim gig previously, and the idea that up until when we went to bed on Tuesday night, the finalists were going to be Shieldhouse, current Cleveland Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, who was a two-time, or I should say, a one-time uh, assistant coach of the year in the NFL and was a finalist this past year. Um, and also, well, actually, he is a finalist this year. And and Munkin's name appeared out of nowhere that nobody really thought it was possible. And then it starts getting more steam, and it was announced just after 10 a.m. yesterday morning. And there are some people now trying to justify the move. There are a lot of people that are still scratching their heads as to, huh?
Look, I have not been as invested with this franchise for the last couple of years because of who right now is listed as third on their depth chart at the quarterback position. I did like what Andrew Berry did in the draft this past year. I like the fact that they gave Shador a shot. I like the fact that they fired Kevin Stefanski. The fuck. That's all I got. I don't even get it. He wasn't even the fifth best candidate for this job. If that. And you've now pissed off a guy who your franchise once in a generation defensive end who just broke the record for most sacks in a single season adores. We've now pissed off him, and now we're gonna piss off Miles again. I eh, Jim, I don't fucking get it. I don't. When this came
And
out, I literally looked at my phone, I went, "What in the fuck are they doing?"
And this is where the story now takes a twist, is because the Browns are going to be opening that dome out on Brook Park on the west side of Cleveland here in the next 3 years. And there's already people saying, unless he blows everybody out of the water, Todd Monken is not going to be the head coach of this team when that dome opens. There are certain people saying that if he doesn't eclipse what Stefanski did last year record wise by winning 5 games, that he could be a one and done, and general manager Andrew Berry could be going with him so they could blow this whole thing up. And one of the funnier quotes I've actually seen here, because it was actually mine that actually some people reacted to in the YouTube chat on Tony Rizzo's radio show uh, this morning, in the fallout of that, was that you'd have to figure it would be Munkin because now it's their seventh choice. He's basically Mike Pettin 2.0, and they've actually now got their seventh choice of quarterback because of Shadur Sanders going to the Pro Bowl is essentially the seventh best quarterback who didn't back out.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing. When you think about the teams that aren't desirable jobs for coaches, it's every year, it's the Jets and the Browns. Every year. Every fucking year. I don't understand this. And now here's the other thing.
Michael,
If
real
Jim
quick, what's the common denominator with those two teams?
asshole owners,
Correct. Woody Johnson and Jimmy Haslam.
um, let me see, the ambassador and the great value Jerry Jones is how I think we should call them from now on. I mean, Jimmy Haslam is terrible. He's absolutely terrible. Sell your After they trade Giannis, sell your stake in the Bucks and just write a blank check to anybody. I don't care if you pick them out of a fucking hat. It's better than the money you're spending now.
Somebody actually said it today on the CBS affiliate here, 92.3 The Fan. They actually said, what would who would actually perform better if you traded Miles for Giannis and you put Giannis on the Browns, or Miles on the Bucks? And it's like, you almost kind of, if you're the Cavs and you're the second apron, you have to, and you cannot make any legitimate moves. You almost have to do something to be able to try to get Giannis here to appease the fans, because now Miles Garrett, who's to say that Miles Garrett, if they don't have a successful draft after signing that massive extension and breaking the record, wants to get himself out? He didn't sign up for this.
No, he didn't. He didn't sign up for this, and a lot of this has to do with this franchise still not doing the thing yet that you and I talked about the other day, and I said it to John in our group chat. They still haven't done the one thing that every other team who's had success in the last 15 years has done, and that is build the juggernaut around the quarterback on the rookie contract. Still haven't done that yet. Listen, this defense is so good. So good. This offense, I think my litter box could score more points than this fucking offense could.
I think 3 times since they've come back, I want to say 3 times since 2010, they've averaged 20 points or more, which is the magical threshold in the NFL.
That's terrible.
Remember, Munkin was the offensive coordinator with that god awful Freddie Kitchens team back in 2019.
Oh, fuck. That's right. I mean,
Although, if you look at that, how bad that team was. Baker played well up until his injury. Nick Chubb had nearly 1,500 yards, which was the best year of his career. You had Beckham and Landry, who caught over 1,000 yards each, and yet the team only won 4 games. So, but remember
well,
that
that's
team, the offense was decent. The defense was one of the worst in football.
yeah, it was this past season, but just the opposite. Um, yeah, Baker threw for a bunch of yards, and those guys were great and had good receiving seasons. Their offensive line was dog shit, like
I
dog
want
shit.
I wanna say, well, this year, their offensive line I wanna say that year, their offensive line was one of the better in football, if I remember.
It was the next year, the year they went to the playoffs.
Okay.
The offensive line in Baker and Chubb's second year was a good run blocking offensive line. It was a terrible pass blocking offensive line.
Yes, you are correct. Yes, yes.
That's why they drafted Jed Wills in that draft the next year. That's when he went what was it, number 5 or 6 overall? They got him?
Somewhere, yeah, because Tristan Wirfs went 1 or 2 before him and turned into an
Yeah,
all-pro, and Jed
to
Wills is probably
Tampa,
gonna get cut.
probably. Um, Listen, now I'm gonna say this about Monken. He can salvage some of this depending on who he brings in to run certain portions of the team. If they can retain Schwartz, that I think it's gotta be paramount. He's leaving.
You know, go ahead and finish your thought, and I'll actually tell you where the other twist to this story went.
So, if you could retain Schwartz, that would be a good thing. He's gotta get an offensive line coach in here that's gonna do good things. Bill Callahan needs a job.
He did bring somebody in already, and I cannot remember his name.
It was the O-line coach from Baltimore,
Yes, yes,
which again, Baltimore's always had a good O-line. He just forgot he had Derrick Henry.
exactly. So the twist is that they were actually hoping to pair up Munkin and Jim Schwartz after Jim Schwartz was advised that he would not be getting the job. Jim Schwartz basically went into his office, cleaned his office out, said, you know, goodbye to everyone, walked out in a huff, and said, I'm not coming back. He's still under contract for this year to the organization. Somebody could probably I would, Mike Shanahan want or Kyle Shanahan want to actually, convince 49er Breast to be able to have him run their defense next year and have San Francisco win a Super Bowl like Seattle's about to. Um, just think of how dominant that team would be with that offense and then Jim Schwartz running that defense.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to do that. I mean, this team is the Cleveland Browns since 1999 are the perfect example of one step forward, 75,000 steps back.
Because the only
It
way
is
you're gonna be
terrible.
able to keep Jim Schwartz, is throw $6 million at him as a coordinator. I mean, I don't even think Joe Brady got that much per year to be able to move from offensive coordinator to the Buffalo head coach yesterday. Um, and and the idea that Schwartz was passed over for this entire thing, absolutely. I would actually want to walk. I would walk out if I was him because he knows he's probably not going to be retained in this point. And you're right. It's pissing off Miles Garrett that Schwartz is not going to be back. That Schwartz is not going to be with this organization. As great of a rapport he's built in this town in the last 3 years, taking over from some of the god awful defensive coordinators that Stefanski had underneath him in the first 3 years. Um, he just Stefanski couldn't get the offense right. Um, the defense really was not a problem since Schwartz came in, but you know, there's a lot of people who are upset with the fact that they didn't go out and they didn't get the flashy young up and comer that they hoped. Who's to say that they don't circle? And I'm going to be stealing some thunder from some of the national and local radio hosts I've heard. Who's to say if this thing doesn't go completely south and they blow this whole regime up? Who's to say that they don't circle back around on Udinsky or House next year, giving one extra year because Shieldhouse has only been in the NFL for 2 years. He's not even been a coordinator. I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be elevated back up to coordinator this year. He still may be on the table to get an offensive coordinator job with somebody's office coming away, from Sean McVay and the Rams. Um, Udinski, if he didn't get the Buffalo job, now he went back with a pay bump to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to basically it looks like they're doing the Kevin Stefanski route, if you know what I mean. Remember, they hired Freddie Kitchens. Freddie had a disastrous year, then they hired Stefanski and they went somewhere with it. Uh I don't know if they have the time to play this game with these guys. Uh I would have just hired the guy. It almost seems like they're trying to get the young up and comer to be in like year 2 or 3 by the time the dome opens to sell tickets.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. It is that moment when James and I give each other names inside or outside of the sports world, and we come up with the first thing that pops into our heads. So with the new format, we're still working on the Chronicle. But I will say this, thinking about some of our greatest hits this being our 102nd translator, I'm brought back to the second translator, James, when John, you and I had a lot of fun with players and stupid people inside and outside of the sports world. We've had everything from making fun of members of Congress to taking shots at Dwayne Johnson of being a shitty actor, which, by the way, he's going to end up getting nominated for an Oscar for that one he just did.
I could have sworn he got passed over, but was that for a Golden Globe instead?
It might have been, but who cares? I mean, Alex cares because Alex is the one that brought it up, but who cares? So it is incumbent upon me to give James the first name of the night. And Jim, I think this is one you and I are going to have a little bit of a discussion about. Yours is non-first ballot Hall of Famer, UNC head coach Bill Belichick.
We're on to Cincinnati.
That's amazing.
We're on to Cincinnati.
It would have been better if you would have known who UNC was going to open up against next year and did that.
Listen, we talked about it. The politics, the fact that he was not a very good head coach in his first few years with the Browns. He did get them to a playoff. Ironically enough, beat the Patriots in that '94 playoff season. And several of his Super Bowls have some controversy sitting behind them between Spygate, Deflategate. We know that was on Brady, but he was tied to as well. His very standoffish nature with the media. Listen, every time we get a major Hall of Fame ballot where there's going to be a lot of guys up there, there's always something. It could be Mike, you and I equated it this week. It would be like, Ichiro not getting unanimous or Ken Griffey getting left off or something like that. And this was some of these voters with a bit of an axe to grind trying to prove a point. He'll certainly get in next year, but you know, is it really any worse at this point with the fact that he's going in next year? Absolutely. Than like a guy like Clay Matthews Sr., who should have been in 10 years ago and still isn't at this point. I've seen bigger travesties. He is he's right behind Shula for the all-time winningest coach. He comes back for 2 years and he breaks Shula's record. He's got all the Super Bowls. He's got that record. Would it have been great to put it on the mantle as a first ballot Hall of Famer? Absolutely. Does it change anything? No, it gives us something to talk about for a week until they actually show all the inductees at the Super Bowl next weekend, and he's not going to be standing there.
Bill Polian's a fucking hater and a half, dude. I mean, I respect it, but he's still a hater and a half.
I'm a double, if not triple hater.
Yeah, that's true.
I still would have voted him in. I
See,
still
I
well,
would
then again, there's also part of me that would have actually said, "No, I'm not gonna vote him in next year. I'll give him next year. I'm not gonna give him this year."
yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out that people think it was because of the Spygate stuff. At the end of the day, did he have a remarkable career? Yes, because he had a remarkable career as a defensive coordinator as well. 2 Super Bowls with the Giants with Parcells, a Super Bowl appearance with the Patriots as their DC with Parcells as the head coach. Um, no, he wasn't their DC because he was in Cleveland. No, he wasn't in Cleveland. That was after. Was he their DC when they went with Parcells
Yes.
and lost to Green Bay? Okay, so yeah, so multiple Super Bowls as a DC. Um, but Jim, it's the same thing as we equated to with baseball, which just had their Hall of Fame thing. We still don't know who Beltran's going to wear in his hat yet. Um, you have 6 Super Bowl championships. 4 of them come with suspension for cheating, or fines, or some kind of league discipline for cheating. Burn in hell, basically.
Michael,
What you got for me?
your name in the YZ translator tonight. I had one originally written down, and I'm going to kind of scrap it a little bit here, especially with some of the other information and as football heavy as we've gone tonight. Um, could we talked about one coach, we talked about another coach, and let's now talk about a third one who was a stunning move. And let's talk about the guy who potentially could have been the reason for his exit when it all comes down to it, and then was praised by his replacement. I'm talking about very, very much publicized, especially in the last 24 hours, Buffalo Bills wide receiver Keon Coleman.
Why? 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 I don't get it. First of all, with
Who are you? Are you Elmira from Tiny Toons? Why?
I'll take the I'll take the comparison and I'll run with that.
Hmm.
Because it's one of the cats are on my feet. I'm gonna love you and squeeze you. I'm just kidding. Um, Jim, I will say this. I'm not as well versed on what Keon's doing. As Keon's from this area, down here. As a matter of fact, he's got a cousin that I met down here. And Jim, I don't know what's going on in Buffalo. Are they sniffing the fumes from the new stadium? Because that entire press conference was such a debacle.
Joe
Such a
Brady's
debacle.
introductory.
No, when the owner and the fucking GM were there after they fired McDermott. I mean, Pagula, go to fucking Australia and watch your girl play tennis. Don't get your face into this shit.
She got knocked out this morning.
I saw that. Look, Keon Coleman, Joe Brady, Pagula, none of that withstanding. That team's going to go as far as Josh Allen takes them. And right now, I don't know if he's got it between the ears to take him any farther than where he's getting him.
As he just had surgery on his foot today. I did watch some of the introductory press conference with Joe Brady. This is actually that's where the Browns should have gone, is somebody young and energetic, and the quote that he stood up on the table campaigning for Keon Coleman, which certainly take a swing, especially after the Stephon Diggs thing blew up, with Diggs being a diva and now actually going to New England to try to grab himself a Super Bowl next week. But you know, I think that Coleman has got potential. I think that, however, with the Bills offense, they need a game breaker, but that only works early in the season, because then you actually have to go a lot more checkdowns and tight ends, which is why Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid flourished so well in that offense. We saw James Cook have the best running back season of anybody in football, winning the rushing title this year, and he's not a very big guy. And then also, Josh Allen being a finalist for his second consecutive MVP. I feel really bad for Keon Coleman. I do like what Joe Brady has done. The fact that there was the controversy with McDermott on the way out the door, and then Joe Brady was part of, was with McDermott, and then Pagula has got to be one of the three worst owners in the NFL right now. Brandon Bean, right now, I love him at times. I absolutely hate him at others. And the way that they shoved McDermott out the door, I don't think that that was on McDermott. I think a lot of that was on, you know, Allen trying to do way too much and not being able to hold on to the ball in the playoffs. As a Bills fan here, um, and this is where I feel terrible for what has happened with Keon Coleman, because Keon Coleman didn't do anything.
No, he didn't. He didn't. I mean, I'm going to say this. If he had landed anywhere else, he'd probably be developed more as a wide receiver right now, and where he could make those contributions when the weather gets bad. Buffalo's got to be a dink and dunk screen. I mean, look at how they got the 4 straight Super Bowls. They weren't throwing deep outs in the middle of fucking December.
I mean,
Listen, your boys have got some things to fix. Now, having said that, they're going to make the playoffs again next year. Brady has a great relationship with Josh Allen. It was the right hire. However, then it gets tough. Then it gets to, is he going to throw it to the wrong color jersey again?
which is hilarious considering Keon Coleman's only got 67 catches between his first 2 years in the league, and he's 6'4".
Tells me a lot more about the quarterback than it does the wide receiver.